I'd like to discuss today expanding the frame of the discussion of educational technology leadership to accommodate systemic change. Working from Northhouse's definition of leadership as a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal, we can make a lot of progress in examining specific leadership traits and behaviors. But it leaves some problems for educational technology leadership research. First, as Enlightenment thinkers like Rousseau, modernists like Freud, postmodernists like Foucault, and anyone who's attended a teachers' union meeting have observed, educators tend toward conservatism with regard toward systemic change. I don't mean they're politically or morally conservative, only that they tend to become educators because they were, for some reason, drawn toward that sector of society. Their conservatism toward educational change may, as the philosophers claimed, derive from education's social function of promoting conformity, but it may also result from not wanting a favorite social sector to be changed by an outside influence, or simply from not wanting extra work without extra compensation. Regardless of the cause, this conservatism influences educational technology, and this is easy to see through titles such as Technology and Pedagogy, Why Don't We See the Promised Revolution? Or No Access, No Use, No Impact, Snapshot Surveys of Educational Technology in K-12. Or Is Doodle Making Us Stupid? Or even Mooch Gone Wild? Clearly there are some people in the educational sector who don't want to be led toward adopting innovations. Second, numerous studies have shown a relationship between transformational leadership by people who hold official leadership roles and educational innovation in different parts of the world. Clearly, transformational leadership can matter. But none of these studies account for transformational leadership that faculty members may have on each other or on those holding official leadership roles. It is very difficult to study the influence exerted by people without official decision-making roles. But if we omit this bottom-up leadership from the leadership studies, then in a way we've redefined the word leadership to mean influenced by those in official decision-making roles. And that causes an ambiguity of terms that can muddy all of our studies. And finally, educational technology leadership studies suffer more than most studies by overemphasizing traits and behaviors relative to issues like gender, cultural values, and even geography. These macro variables confound all leadership studies, but educational technology research must be especially cognizant of their influence because access to technology is usually given first and most broadly to members of privileged social classes. And it's uncomfortably easy to evade the question if studies of educational technology leadership limit their subjects to a homogeneous population with power. Well, surprisingly, a solution to these barriers to research on technology and innovation can be found in the study of history. In the same way that studies of life in the past advanced by widening the focus to topics other than biography, the discussion of educational technology leadership may advance by approaching the question in a way that shows leadership is only one of many factors in a change. This would be like changing the portrait of a leader from a close-up of the face to a distance shot of the leader with a team and opponents in an identifiable setting. This portrait would, of course, reduce the relative size of the leader, but it could yield practical insights into the ways individuals influence groups. Moreover, this reframing can be done through a relatively simple three-step process. Ride the disruptions, bring in the TAM, and Africanize. Let's start with riding the disruptions. In 2012, the Chronicle of Higher Education published an article called Badges Earned Online Pose Challenge to Traditional College Diplomas. In this article, several educators voiced cautions and concerns regarding the stability of educational institutions as digital badges diffused. The following year, though, William Joby called for a Kenyan cloud-based university that would allow students across the country to access instruction through mobile phones, get credentials through digital badges, and receive a university education for a very low cost. Now, both of these cases dealt with the same issue. Open digital badges disrupted status quo. Open digital badges encode digital images with metadata such as the issuer and recipient names, dates of issue and expiration, details of the achievement, and links to digital artifacts of accomplishments. And they allow the recipient to control the record's distribution. This technology could cause major disruptions in educational systems by providing valid and verifiable alternatives to traditional credentialing. Now, Joby is an educational technology leader because he saw this disruptive technology as an opportunity. For another example, consider the disruptions caused in computer-assisted classrooms due to students working at different paces or using the internet for purposes not directly related to the lesson. A non-educational technology leader response could be to discipline the students, limit internet access, and insist on all students moving at the same speed. An educational technology leader, though, could demonstrate situational leadership by combining competency-based education and digital badges to facilitate differentiated learning and increase student motivation as they work on slightly different projects at the same time. These leaders could apply authentic leadership by sharing their experience with colleagues through casual conversations, demonstrations, and professional development. On a district or systems level, these educational technology leaders could explore using digital badges to implement competency-based education across a district. In each of these cases, an educational technology leader would influence the community by turning what was a disruption into an opportunity. While the disruptive waves of new technologies cannot be stopped, leaders can show ways to harness their power and possibly even enjoy the process. Second, bring in the TAM. In addition to identifying and promoting the best use of disruptive technologies, educational technology leaders, regardless of official roles, can demonstrate leadership by facilitating the diffusion and adoption of innovations. The diffusion of innovations theory has over half a century of cross-cultural research supporting its basic concepts. It usually begins with an innovator who gains followers among early adopters. Their work is observed by influential people who make decisions regarding the systemic implementation of the innovation. These decisions draw in late adopters and even, eventually, the laggards. Since the technical innovation stage will likely be occupied by people focusing on technology rather than education, educational technology leaders are most likely to emerge in the early adopter and decision maker stages. The diffusion of innovations also emphasizes the importance of communication and community culture in the diffusion process, both of which should fall easily under the influence of educational technology leaders in decision-making roles. But educational technologies can lead even if they're not in decision-making roles. In the 1980s, research increasingly focused on the way technological innovations often had bottom-up diffusion, resulting in the technology acceptance model, or TAM, and its descendants such as the TAM2, TAM3, and unified theory of acceptance and use of technology. These theories all highlight the importance of two classes of factors in the adoption of technologies. First, there are the innovation-related factors, such as the perceived utility and perceived ease of use of the technology. The second class of factors include community-related factors, such as facilitating conditions and social influence. Educational technology leaders in any organizational role could increase the perceived usability and perceived ease of use of technologies by modeling the use of these technologies, explaining their use, speaking optimistically about their potential, coming alongside others struggling with the technologies, and building a sense of community among early and late adopters. In other words, servant leadership, transformative leadership, and authentic leadership could all be employed to lead a community to overcome the innovation-related barriers to adopting a technology. And overcoming the community-related barriers could be done most effectively by educational technology leaders in decision-making roles. For example, deans or principals could create facilitating conditions by allowing professional development time, release time for teachers to develop proficiency in the technology, or incentives for using appropriate technologies. In addition, their transformational leadership could facilitate conditions for innovation by decreasing the centrality of their role, or the betweenness in communication between faculty members. They could optimize their leader membership exchange by building an educational technology leadership team that would free the principal from being the content area expert on educational technology. And finally, as all leadership discussions tend to go back toward the Marvel universe, we should consider africanizing. In 2012, when Peter Havinga, the director of academic Planning at the University of South Africa was asked to explain the growth and success of this 320,000 student university. His answer included a concept often overlooked by educational technology leaders: Africanization. He defined Africanization as intentionally choosing to develop resources and programs that attempt to be relevant to the communities in which the students are serving and working. This means educational technology leaders should go beyond simple awareness of potential leadership differences due to cultural values, and should seek to promote technology use that promotes the best values of the target culture. For instance, while potential leaders may not be surprised that translation of books or courses from English to other languages may result in languages losing some relevance, educational technology leaders should be the ones who point out that different cultures may prefer different types of web design, or flipped classes may go against the Chinese cultural values of collectivity and respect for authority. Educational technologies, of course, shouldn't always support the dominant cultural values, but they should lead in awareness of which technologies could challenge those values. For instance, they should lead in awareness that giving impoverished children access to community computers may result in computer knowledge becoming a commodity that could cause social instability on the playground. Or giving impoverished children laptop computers could lessen their respect for teachers and formal education. They should lead in awareness that the use of Web 2.0 could increase the use of technology, constructivist teaching methods, and mobile phone-based education could increase the status of women. All of these changes are documented, and educational technology leaders should take the forefront in promoting awareness of these social implications of technology. The principle of Africanization doesn't apply only to international issues, but to local issues as well, as educational technology leaders apply situational leadership based on commitment and competence of the people they're leading. And they deal with the in-group and out-group dynamics of the organization expressed in leader-member exchange, and apply authentic leadership regardless of the official role they hold in the community. Each of these activities will look different based on the local culture of the institution and community they're working in. But that's Africanization's point. Leadership should look different in different local contexts. So in conclusion, it's likely that the gaps in research on educational technology will remain. Educational systems tend to resist being led to change. And the word leader is difficult to define and apply in a way conducive to thorough research in this area. And it's dangerously easy to design studies that beg the question by limiting their scope to privileged sectors of society. However, potential influencers do not need to wait for that gap to close before exerting their influence. By identifying and applying technologies that are already diffusing, writing the disruptive technologies, applying leadership behaviors that enhance the diffusion and adoption of innovations according to the diffusion of innovation theory and TAM principles, bring in the TAM, and promoting the development and implementation of technologies that align with the group's deep values and goals, Africanization, individuals can apply traits of servant leadership, transformational leadership, and adaptive leadership to become educational technology leaders, regardless of their official roles in the communities.